I was at a place where I was mentally miserable, and I had success with my relationships at home, with my family, my wife. Work was going great. I was making more money than I ever thought I could, and I was still miserable. My brain was telling me to go get more. I was miserable for no reason. I couldn't just sit and be happy.
Men were built to lead. We're supposed to lead the household.
Yeah.
We're supposed to lead and walk our kids and our relationships into the right way of how to live.
Yeah.
But we're all facing very similar battles, very similar struggles, and the way to cope about it is to take care of home base first.
Alpha males can address their thing. Like I love seeing Mike Tyson sitting on Joe Rogan's podcast talking about his emotions and things like that, because alpha males would never
Playing
speak
and
about
crying, and I was like, where am I? And I had a concussion, so I didn't know what was going on. She said, yeah, that's a dangerous spot, and you almost hit that telephone pole and you could have died, and look at you, you've got no scratch on you. And I was like, okay. And she's grabbing me, hugging me, and I was like, why is this lady hugging me? She's like, I honestly just wanted to feel the guardian angel that protected you.
Aw.
And I was like, what is going on? We are diving into something raw, men and mental health. And I'm kind of glad we're talking about this.
Yeah, we need to be talking about it as men, because we've been taught not to talk about it.
Yep. So let me ask you this. Why does men's mental health matter?
Well, because men's suicide rates are 4 times higher than women's. Not that women's doesn't matter, but that's a really large disparity or disparaging number between the two classes there. And it just clearly shows us that we're not talking about mental health for men. We're taught to stuff our feelings down low and not deal with them, and that doesn't work.
It definitely doesn't work. Yeah, that is the John Wayne syndrome, right? You rub some dirt in it, you'll be fine. There's no crying in baseball,
Yeah.
even from an early age.
Yep. Rub some dirt on it and get back in the game.
Yep. And you don't really see that on the women's side as well. It's more so that they are very open to their feelings, and kind of tough in relationships as well, because men don't know how to handle that because we want to solve their problems, and kind of just spitballing here. But do you think that we could do the same to them, to the women? Or do you think it's more of men talking to other men on how to handle life, whatever life throws at them?
I would think that men just need to learn to open up to anyone, whether it's a woman or a man. I don't know that it matters. I just think that we have to change the perception that a man is weak if he basically talks about his feelings, if he opens up about them, if he addresses them, acknowledges they exist. It's a negative thing in the man's world. You have to be tough, the alpha male, and if you're weak, you're perceived as weak. You're not going to get the girl you want if you're all emotional.
Yeah, could come off as an ick to some women, I guess.
Yeah, you're considered weak, and I think it's not just women that perceive you that way. Other men will judge you that way. It's just the way that we were raised. It's the way our society is. And I do think it's changing, which is wonderful.
Yeah. Have you seen any change in the workplace?
I guess I have, because of my own life, the way that I've been living. I've been running head on into my emotions and dealing with mine for the last 6 years. So as I've opened up, I've started to just draw a line in the sand and start using words like love and sad, and just using words that describe emotions, and trying to be cognizant of others. So I've been noticing it personally, but I think it's because I've been addressing them, my own emotions, and diving inward to try to get them out of that box that I threw them in for so many years.
Yeah, definitely. I've noticed it a lot more as a father. I've got a little over 2-month-old baby boy, and I wouldn't say that I'm changing how I parent, but I can't wait to take him around back and kind of show him how to be a man. And I reflect on how my dad tried to do that. And, but my dad was really more empathetic than I would say most manly men. You know, he was the hipster guitar playing, like, you know, empathetic type of guy, but he did show me, I guess, several things that I would like to carry on to my kids. But I am in my own journey with all that too. I think self-talk is a thing that I've been noticing I've been doing lately, because I do feel like your kids, they pick up on your energy, and having a closed mindset, not to get into too much parenting here, but having a closed-minded mindset versus an open mindset. Self-talk is one thing that I've been trying to do. And so whenever I come across a challenge, I'll say, you know what, I can do this. I can get through this. This is not a problem. I'm a problem solver. I'm relentless. And I'm starting to pick up my daughter saying things like that when she's trying to do some type of task. And then she's like, I can do this.
Yeah.
I'm a problem solver. You know, so stuff like that's really cool to me. But did you have some statistics about men?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the suicide rates are extremely high. It's clear that men are killing themselves at a 4-to-1 ratio over women, but women are identifying with depression at 28% of our population, and men are only at 17%. And those statistics don't jive up. It means men, in my opinion, they're suffering just as bad, but they're not open about it. You know, they're suffering in silence.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason why we wanted to have this conversation, because we know that men are suffering in silence. It's a topic it's very difficult for people to have, because most people, they don't even know where to start. You know, as we started this podcast today, I didn't really know where to start. But
Same.
you know, you said something a minute ago, teach your kid how to be a man. That's a broad statement.
It
it
is.
I think as men, I didn't know I still don't even know if I understand what it means to be a man. And that identity that we put to ourselves is, I'm trying to be a man, or this is what it takes to be a man. It's such a broad scope that I think really creates some difficulties for men to be able to express their feelings, because the typical male in society is just tough. You know, and the reality is, inside, men are drowning, you know,
keeping it all bottled up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Women go through something very similar, and I don't want to assume that I know what all women are going through, but you know, there's a certain look that women are supposed to live up to, and in social media makes that really difficult. And I think men are going through something very similar, but nobody's talking about it.
So how have we been so successful in talking about this type of conversation? I mean, honesty would be one.
Yeah.
Being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
More than likely.
I think honesty is a great place to start. A little self-reflection, being honest with yourself, and like, hey, man, like, I don't feel good today. You know, hey, I struggled last night. Hey, I'm dealing with this, or I'm dealing with that. And being able to have conversations like that and not be viewed as weak, you know, because we are close enough friends to know that if I come in tomorrow and I express to you that, man, I am really just down on myself, I'm feeling like a bum, this is what I did, I made this mistake, I can't believe this, you're going to lift me up, and you're going to empathize with me, maybe give me some pointers, but you're not going to judge me and make me feel a certain way. So it's a safe environment, right? But I don't think many men have safe environments where they feel that they can voice that. And then even if we do voice it, what kind of advice are we actually going to get in return that can actually help us? Because if the person that we're getting advice from is just telling you to stuff it in your box. That's what I do. Rub some more dirt on it, get through your day, stop being a little bitch, stop whining and just move on with your days. Well, that's what keeps the men in silence, because that's the typical advice that men get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something about advice. I've always learned to take any advice with a grain of salt and ultimately believe what you want to believe. But you're right. You never know where that advice is coming from, what battles that person is facing to give to you, because they could automatically reflect onto you.
Yeah.
But I think the more you have the conversations like me and you have, or I've got 2 to 3 friends that I could call for anything, and they would give me some practical advice, but still it's more so just to reassure that I'm not crazy, giving me the validation there. But yeah, I think having those more open dialogues with men, and then you giving advice on what you'd want to hear to them to maybe create that safe space. But ultimately, I would hope that my dad or you would tell me something to be like, look, I know that you're playing Superman here, but you're not a superhero. Like, you got to be honest, because I feel like that most men have that armor plate on themselves and they feel like they're invincible. And when we were young, we thought we were, with raging testosterone, and we could take over the world. But I can't jump as high as I used to, and I have to accept some of that.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard getting older. It's hard coming of age. I remember when I was in my late teens, early 20s, how much shame I felt because I couldn't take care of myself the way that some others were.
Mm-hmm.
People that were ahead of me as far as life and money and relationships. And I always noticed everyone around me, what car they were driving, what job they had, where they were living. And I compared myself to them. And if they were outdoing me, I felt shame.
Mm-hmm.
So there was this constant comparison. And then you go 30 years later, and now you're looking, and it's that never-ending comparison and of what it's supposed to be. But none of that is what matters.
No.
That none of that is real. The reality of it is the only thing that matters is the present moment and where you're at, when what you're doing in this moment. And I think most men get trapped in that, and until they learn we learn how to just open up and be a little more like a woman, to be honest, and open with our feelings a little bit, not to the point where we're just dumping on everybody all day, every day, but at the end of the day, when we're having a bad day, to be able to express why we're having a bad day, not just lashing out at people, and not just, becoming toxic with our emotions that we're experiencing, and try to process them and find ways to actually address them. That's kind of what I've been trying to do personally for the last 6 years. And I would say that the best thing any man could do that's out there suffering is to try to heal, is to try to do something about it. Acknowledge that you're suffering and try to find help, whether it's going to a therapist or going to your friend and going to your family, trying alternative methods of healing, trying my program.
Yeah.
Trying something to just not just say, this is life. This is the way it's supposed to be. Because that's what I thought up until I was 45 years old, is I thought life sucked and it was just going to be that way until I died. That negative self-talk that you were talking about, I didn't think I had any control of that. I just thought, I'm stupid. I'm not worthy enough. I'm not lovable enough. And that's the truth of it, but I just got to hide that from everyone.
Right.
And it was all a lie. It was just negative programming that I had from my past, and none of it is real. It's all fake, and it caused me a lot of pain and suffering. And I think I was in that category of depression for 30 years, and I didn't need to be. And I'm grateful that I've found freedom from all of that, and just would really love to figure out a way for men as a whole to kind of rally around the fact that we are suffering and we need to find a way to learn to heal.
So to summarize, So men were built to lead. We're supposed to lead the household.
Yeah.
We're supposed to lead and walk our kids and our relationships into the right way of how to live.
Yeah.
But we're all facing very similar battles, very similar struggles. And the way to cope about it is to take care of home base first.
Yeah.
You got to take care of yourself.
You.
You
Yeah.
got to take care of you so you can take care of others.
Yeah. Just like, we're taught on the airplane, right? Dude, you got to put your oxygen mask on before you try to put it on your kid, because if you're not able to breathe, you're liable to pass out and you don't even get it on your kid.
Right.
So put your oxygen mask on first. Take care of yourself first before you take care of anybody else. That's the only way forward, in my opinion, is we have to start taking care of ourselves, because part of the stigma with men that I think attributes to the suffering of men is what you talked about just a second ago, is we're taught to lead and provide and for our families. And if you don't at a certain level, you're deemed a failure.
Mm-hmm.
You're deemed not worthy.
Mm-hmm.
If there's not any woman in their right mind that would take on a man that's just not got his shit together.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He doesn't have a job, doesn't have a car, can't pay his own bills.
Mm-hmm.
Women look at that guy as he's not worthy of their time and efforts. And I understand that perspective, because we all need to be able to contribute to the family and work hard and do whatever. But if you're making $50,000 or $250,000 and the effort is there shouldn't be this stigma that guy is more valuable than this guy because of the amount of money that he makes. But the reality of it is that we are judged by that, and that is a constant stigma in men's heads, and we have a very hard time putting that in its place and just existing.
Mm-hmm. Where would someone get started? I mean, is it a certain focus in a certain area, or is it a habit, or is it, and I'm just spitballing here, but
No,
where does someone start? If someone's
start
listening
with
saying,
awareness.
yes, that's me.
I would start with awareness. If you're feeling a certain kind of way, and acknowledge it with yourself. That's where I would start. I would start by saying, you know what? I feel like shit. And it's every day I feel like shit. The noise in my head, it won't stop. And acknowledge it. That's all of a sudden you have awareness of something, you can do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
But if we continue to just lie to ourselves and say everything's okay, then that's when it's just you're going to go in the same direction. Nothing's ever going to change.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when we make a decision to say, you know what,
Enough's enough.
Enough's enough. I'm not okay. Where I was at 6 years ago, I was at a place where I was mentally miserable, and I had success with my relationships at home, with my family, my wife. Work was going great. I was making more money than I ever thought I could. And I was still miserable. My brain was telling me to go get more. I was miserable for no reason. I couldn't just sit and be happy. And I remember telling Jason Jarrett that I was going to quiet my mind by any means necessary. And I don't think he fully understood the magnitude at which I meant that. But that put me on a path of turning 100% of my focus inwards and taking responsibility for everything that was going on in my head, and realizing that what was happening in the outside wasn't going to make me happy. I had to focus on what was going on the inside. And that's when everything changed for me. And I think that's a universal thing, for humans. Like if we're focused on the outside world and we're comparing and we're looking for satisfaction out there, whatever's happening out there is getting processed through one of our five senses, and then we process that information and give it meaning. We get to decide whether we're having a good podcast right now or a bad podcast. Like we get to decide how we experience life and how we process it all. And I think when you start to take that process and that perspective of, I get to decide how my life is, I get to decide, everything can change from there.
I think my life-changing moment happened back when I first found out I was going to be a father. I was 20, almost 21, and I was going to my dad's house for some Labor Day or something, and it had just started raining, and my tires on my Jeep were bald, and I fishtailed, and then I overcorrected, and then I started flipping. And yeah, I flipped into a field, and I came from 6 feet from hitting a telephone pole. Landed upright. I was hitting my head on the Jeep, and landed upright. And then this lady comes out, and she's just bawling and crying. And I was like, where am I? And, I had a concussion, so I didn't know what was going on. She said, yeah, that's a dangerous spot. And you almost hit that telephone pole, and you could have died. And look at you. You've got no scratch on you. And I was like, okay. And she's grabbing me, hugging me. And I was like, why is this lady hugging me? She's like, I honestly just wanted to feel the guardian angel that protected you.
Oh.
And I was like, what is going on?
Wow.
But the next few days, I felt like I got hit by a train. And I was really in depth thinking, why did I get spared? I could have very easily hit that telephone pole and it could have been game over.
Yeah.
There must be something going on in my life that I'm not done with yet. And not an hour later, I got the text that I'm going to be a father.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So that changed my whole philosophy because it was no longer about me. And I guess the best way I could describe it, it was from selfishness to selflessness. Mm-hmm. And then when I saw her, and then all of my children, I still get the same feeling, but it's just like this, I will die for you. Yeah. I will do anything for you. I want to raise you the right way. I want you to be the best version of yourself. But in order to do that, I need to be the best version of myself.
Yes.
And from then I've been doing all my research, doing all my books, learning from great people like you. And that's just been my why for how I do everything.
Yeah.
But that's when it truly changed for me. And apparently there's some scientific research behind that for a man's brain. There's different growth patterns that happen when you become a father.
Yeah.
And
I experienced the same thing as far as when life just changed for me.
Yeah.
When I had my first kid, and is your perspective on everything just changes because you stop caring about yourself. Now all of a sudden it's about somebody else. Now it's about diapers and formula.
Yeah.
And house over your head. And all the games stop. Now
it's time for business, but you are getting tested, boy, because they will use your flaws against you that they learn from you.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going through it right now with waking up every few hours and trying to do my part as the man to help the wife and feed the kid, but make sure she's good. But I couldn't do that if I wasn't trying to take care of myself. And I think that overall that's the way to go. Finding the why and then trying to just be in the present moment, knowing when you're getting distracted, putting labels on things, knowing when you're emotional and then labeling, that's another thing. But as well as, I feel like I'm spitballing, but there's all these same patterns and battles that men are facing. Like one of them is that animal instinct that we have. When everything I'm reading is like, don't be the animal, don't fall into it. You got to separate that ego and natural instinct. And I think there's a left brain and right brain thing going on there.
The lizard brain.
Yeah. But knowing that, and we're all facing some of those same temptations and stuff too.
Yeah. Because then we get judged based off of how we respond to those animal instincts.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have control, you get left to the consequences of not having any self-control. One of the biggest things that I think I learned from having a baby, or that I experienced, was for the first time, and I think it was unconditional love.
Yeah.
I'd never experienced unconditional love for anyone or anything until I had a baby.
Agreed.
And I think the goal for me now is to experience that, not just for my kid, but to experience that with everybody else. And I've been practicing that as just a daily practice of unconditional love for everyone, everything around me. And I've done really good over the years and achieving that of a mind state. And I still got to work on it. But now the next phase of this for me is being able to do that to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that men don't know how to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we love and we have to take care of everybody else. And I think a lot of the things that we do for ourselves, the impulses, are to suppress pain.
Mm-hmm.
You know, acting on those impulses gives you dopamine, and they're quick fixes to make the mental pain and the mental noise go away.
Or vices.
Or vices,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether it's alcohol or weed or drugs, you know, women. Yes, you women can be something that we get addicted to. And it's hard. It's a lot because you're suffering on the inside and you don't even realize that you're suffering because you've never even been told, especially my generation, we never even spoke of depression.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're in your late 40s or older, depression was something for a rare few that needed to go to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, being able to talk about how you were feeling and whatever that wasn't happening. And I think we just don't understand what it truly means to love ourselves with unconditional love, with all of our faults, with exactly who we are in the standing of the world, because we're all comparing ourselves to other people. This person's doing this and this person's doing that. This person makes this much. This person makes that much. This kid's going to this school. My kid's going over here. This kid did this, or, you know, and it's a constant comparison that I think men are suffering from. And if we just learn to accept ourselves perfectly imperfect humans and got comfortable with that, I think that would solve a lot of problems, or at least
Be the stepping stone.
one heck of a place to start.
Yeah.
Just accepting ourselves as, you know, being able to be imperfect,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and still loving ourselves as much as we would love our kid,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a tall order.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, where do we go from here?
Well, I think we got to have a conversation. I think that's the biggest part that we could do, is start to have a conversation to where, you know, alpha males can address their thing. Like, I love seeing Mike Tyson sitting on Joe Rogan's podcast talking about his emotions and things like that, because alpha males would never speak about that. And I know he's gone on his own spiritual journey, and he's kind of had a reset of his entire personality in a lot of ways. And I think that is healthy. I think it's healthy for a lot of men to be able to address their emotions and be able to work through them.
So I got a few questions for you.
All right.
We actually have already answered quite a few of them, just kind of flowing. So from your perspective as both a business leader and a dad, why is men's mental health not just a private issue, but a leadership issue?
Man, as a boss, as somebody who has several hundred people working underneath them, and the egos of men come into play quite a bit.
Absolutely.
And the power struggles, especially when you're dealing with a superintendent that is talking about his men and me and and they're going to defend this guy, or they're going to, you know, the male
Macho.
bravado comes out.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you're dealing with a bunch of roughnecks.
Yeah.
You know, guys that they're in ditches all day long, or they're hanging pipe all day, or it's difficult work. It's hard physical labor. And these guys they're tough.
Yeah.
And it's hard in that environment, especially to
Bridge that gap.
to have the conversation that we're having.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? And I think as a leader, what I can do is to have a dialogue with them instead of matching testosterone with testosterone, hold my ground and be respectful, but at the same time, open that dialogue of, hey man, what's really going on?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Going deeper.
why? Yes. Ask them, like, what's happening?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
If you see a pattern or something.
yeah, because if you see a guy that doesn't blow up if it's a guy that blows up every day, well, okay, he blows up every day and that's normal. But when you got a guy that blows up randomly,
Mm-hmm. Out of the norm.
out of the norm, ask him what's going on in his life.
Mm.
How's his wife? How's his kid? What's going on?
Mhm.
And typically it's when a guy blows up because somebody was being disrespectful in that work, that's just the straw.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much more behind that guy's snap
Mhm.
than that. That was just it.
That was
just,
it.
That was just the last thing he could take. He couldn't swallow not one more thing
Mhm.
because the pain that he was dealing with was boiling over, and
Mhm.
so he acted out to a GC, reacted out to a coworker, and and now he's sitting in my office or something, and we're having to have a conversation.
Something, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
something that I've learned from you that you do very well at is you're able to notice that more so quicker than anybody else would. It's not like that you're looking for it, but you have that awareness to be like, I know that guy. And you'll walk through and you'll say, hey, I hope you're having a good day. You give them those positive affirmations. You're opening the door for them to have a dialogue with you.
Yeah.
Whereas you're inviting them in versus that same old standard. They're not going to go in and talk to you if you don't open that door, like they're going to say, oh, I'm a pussy, or
Yeah.
just like, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to
Yeah.
bang this hammer or whatever it is, just put out their frustration that way. But then you're right. If you can catch that before the blow up, you'll find the true indicator of what's going on.
Yeah. And so if you drop what I would call love bombs,
Love bombs. I love that.
randomly for 6 months
Mm-hmm.
and let somebody know you care about them.
That's
and,
it.
And I truly do.
Yeah, you do.
It's not,
You do.
It's not fake. So
No.
if I'm unconditionally loving everybody that comes around, and I know at times I could do more for others and my brain gets focused and distracted and I don't do as good as I could. But if I try and I put the effort out there and I use words like love,
Mm-hmm.
like when I'm talking to somebody and I let them know that I truly care.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when it gets to that point where
The ticking time bomb?
when the bomb goes off
Mm-hmm.
and the emotions are flaring, well, now in that moment, I realize, okay, tensions are high. I need to try to diffuse this and get it calm a little bit before we have a real conversation. So try to lighten the load, try to make a joke, get it calm, try to say everything's going to be all right. Just get the emotions out of the situation. And once the emotion starts to come down, really just let them know that I care.
Mm-hmm.
Lead with love.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, the testosterone kind of subsides and you can have a real conversation
Mm-hmm.
because then they become safe.
Yeah, it's a
You know-
safe space.
Yeah. If you don't create a safe space in a work environment, that emotion that they're feeling is not going to subside.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to stay on defense. They're going to stay white knuckled, ready to fight.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned that a while back, not just leading with love in the daily activities. That's relatively easy. It's just a mental shift and whatever. But when things get difficult, to maintain that level of compassion, love, and it's usually well received in
It's not normal. I don't think it's normal in a workplace.
I don't think it is either. I get a lot of feedback that no, this place is different. Like
Mhm.
we treat people different here, and I've worked in some other places, and no, nobody ever sat me down with
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, dude, I love you.
Mhm.
Like, hey, this is what's going on,
Mhm.
like, and trying to figure out what was going on in my world. I just had to stub my toe and not do it again.
Yeah.
Type of a thing.
Yep.
But stubbing the toe, the old school way of things, like that model is broken.
It's
now.
gone. It's
Yeah,
gone.
you can't just-
crack the whip.
No, you can't. The cracking the whip days is over. The old school way of yelling and cussing and going out back around the barn fighting, fist fighting, and then coming back and everybody going to work. Yeah, those days are dead. We have to, and it's good that those days are dead. I think we need to be able to have real conversations in the workplace. And the thing is, like, we spend more time at work with our coworkers than we do at home.
Mhm.
We work 50, 55 hours a week. You and I both do. And if you know, I'm spending more time in the week with you than I do with my wife.
Mhm.
And if I'm not building relationships with you and my other coworkers, then, you know, I'm miserable at work.
Right.
You
Right.
know, so
And I think the majority of people are. They're very miserable at work,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I got a guy, he's a friend of mine now, but he comes in and he cleans my fish tank and he cleans tanks in other people's offices. And he basically just says, Mike, when I come in here and clean this, like your guys' office is so cool. And everybody's so welcoming and they come into your office and they're laughing, cutting up, joking. And sometimes you guys are serious, but even then, you guys are having real dialogue and nobody's going crazy. He said, but I go to some other offices and everybody's scared, everybody's negative, everybody's talking crap about everybody else. And he said, I just don't see that when I come here. So yeah, I think it's widespread and it starts with the leaders.
It does.
To your point, like us as men, when they say, what can we do? We can be the leaders as individuals. We can all be the leaders, start working on ourselves and then let that spread from you.
Mhm.
We can't just, if we see somebody that's suffering, one of our friends, we can hug them and let them know we care. But if we're struggling ourselves, how much help are we really going to be for somebody?
Yep.
You know, presence is a big deal. Giving somebody
Huge.
your time and effort. But when you're suffering, that's really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you balance that?
I don't know if it's a balance. I think it's you work on you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if we all literally start working on ourselves, we're going to start to make some space for everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because if you're suffering, you need help now.
Mhm.
Like, what about you? Unconditional love for you. Like, if you love yourself as much as you love your child, you're going to start with you,
Mm-hmm.
not just your child.
Mhm.
You know, like, why is your child more valuable than you?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I get it that he can't take care of himself. You know, Rhett's, he's just a little baby.
Yeah, he's on full survival mode for us right now.
So I get it. In this scenario, you have to take care of your baby, but when you're just looking from man to man, stranger, friend, coworker, like the best thing we could do for the people around us is learn to express love and compassion, be open, but work on ourselves.
Mhm.
Become healthy. Become that person that they want
Exactly.
to emulate. Like,
Exactly.
They opened up and he
Yes.
got better. I can do that too.
Yep.
How'd you do that? What'd you do, Taylor? How'd you work on yourself? How'd you get so calm?
Mhm.
You know, that having conversations with folks after we were messing with you earlier in my office, and we were talking about you, how calm you are. And it's a trait that allows you to process that self-talk, get separation from it, and it allows you to be a good leader, you know? And it's served you really, really well, and it's going to serve you really well in the future. But that's how we can do it, is start to do the things that you do, and it's meditating, stretching, and priming your day, and all the things that you talk about that you do. Those things are what you do to love yourself
Mhm.
enough to make yourself the example where somebody's looking at you like, damn, I want some of what Taylor's having for breakfast. You know, he looks like he's happy right now. Like, I want some of whatever he's doing. I want some of that. And I think that's how we can lead, set the example, and be open, be vulnerable, be willing to
Yep.
talk about
Yep.
our bad days,
Yep.
because it lets
It's-
them know, like, hey, I'm not alone. I'm not the only
Yep.
one having a bad day.
Yeah. No one's perfect, but you just got to take it as it goes, and it's about how you handle it and
Yeah.
respond. And to piggyback off that, it's discipline. It's self-discipline is self-love.
Yes.
And if I want to be around for Rhett's wedding day, I got to make sure my health's in order.
Yeah.
I got to eat. I got to delay that gratification for having that pizza every day. That I want pizza every day.
I
It's
do
my
too.
favorite, man. But having that, well, I bought this, so I'm going to have this. And I need to stretch, because if not, it's going to hurt me later.
Yeah.
And I'm not as young as I once was, but I can, by doing the priming that I do, stretching in the morning, breathing that you talk about in your program a lot, the box breathing, huge. Eating the right things, because this body's a machine and it's getting older every day.
Yeah.
You are what you put into it.
You know, discipline is huge. I can't, like, and I still suffer with discipline because I got a little ADD.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say more than a little. So I struggle with discipline, the routine of things, and doing the same thing. I'll feel wonderful doing a certain meditation for 2 or 3 weeks straight. And I'm like, "Ooh, wait, look, there's a new shiny one over
Yeah,
here. And
yeah.
I'll start doing something different. And that one doesn't have the same effect as the one I was doing 3 weeks ago. And then I'll look for another new shiny thing to do, little meditation or breath work. And I won't come back to that other one for 6 months because I'm the discipline of sticking with what works.
I think everyone battles that too, because like I've learned quick that my morning routine has changed because of the lack of sleep that I'm getting at night. Sometimes I'm not prepping my meals, but I think it's having that adaptability to be able to find whatever it is that is a small win that you can say, I did that.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, when you did all that stuff that required discipline that you didn't want to do, you feel mentally stronger.
Absolutely, because you listen to your mind and not your body. Your body did not want to get out of that comfortable bed, but you got up. And then you're already winning your day.
Yeah. One of the skill sets that I learned over the last 6 years as I went into this intense inward focus is how the subconscious mind works. And one of the things that surprised me about the reason why we suffer so much is because of the subconscious programming that we have.
Absolutely.
But the subconscious mind is literally trying to protect us. And its idea of trying to protect us is keeping us safe and comfortable. It wants you to sit on the couch in a safe house and watch TV. Because nothing bad is going to happen when you're sitting on the couch watching TV. You're safe, you're comfortable. But to grow and to heal and to prosper in this, to mentally prosper, we have to get in those places where you're uncomfortable, where you have to face
Be comfortable
change.
being uncomfortable.
Yes. And that's what discipline does, especially when you're pushing yourself to be better. That discipline pushes you over the top to be better. And then at the end of the day, you're like, oh shit, I feel better right now.
Yeah.
And in that, all that hard stuff you did in the day
Yeah.
really benefits you.
Yeah. And celebrating those, even if it could seem like it's coming off as bragging, but even just do it to yourself. High five yourself. You look in the mirror and say, good fucking job.
Yes.
Like you owned it today.
That's exactly right. And so if your kid did all those things that they had on their list, what would you say to them?
I would shout hooray from the mountaintops.
Why
not do it for ourselves?
Yes.
Yeah.
We should be celebrating ourselves. That's the unconditional love that I was talking about. We don't know how to do that. We don't know how to celebrate ourselves and love ourselves unconditionally. And if we can learn how to do that, now all of a sudden we start putting in some subconscious programming that is positive and reinforcing, and it'll lift us up and ease some of the suffering that men are feeling.
You're more so focused. You're proactive instead of the reactiveness, because you can get distracted easily with social media. You can get distracted in not doing all the projects you say you're going to do. But why would you do it if you're not doing what you're supposed to do? If you're lying to yourself and saying, oh, I'll get up early, and then I don't.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, I'll eat healthy. And then you're not even trusting your own self.
Yeah.
But when you do that, you'll see it come in 10x, like back to yourself. And then you knock out those projects before you even realize you did it.
Yeah.
And it comes back, and then you're just on a higher level, and it's unreal. It really is.
Yeah, I think that's where growth comes from. I know that there's a lot of guys like David Goggins that talks about just pushing through, and there's medical science about how the brain, a certain part of the brain grows when you do things that you don't want to do. And that part of the brain is linked to longevity and your age and in the durability of your body. And it doesn't have to be something that like exercising.
Right.
Like, just
it could be anything.
Yeah, it could be anything that you don't want to do makes you stronger physically
and mentally.
And mentally, yeah. And I think that is a major part of success, life. But I mean, the ultimate goal, I think for everyone in all walks of life, is to be happy.
Absolutely.
And so what people are doing is they put their happiness
until I get there. I'll put it on the back burner.
Yeah, well, I got to do this to be happy.
Right.
I got to find the right woman to be happy. I got to get that job. I got to buy that house. I got to pay off my house. I got to retire. I got to do this job before I'm ever going to be happy. And happiness is right here in the moment.
Yeah, and it's subjective.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if we just focus on that in the present moment, right here, right now, because the future and the past are all figments of our imagination.
Yeah.
Everything that
Yeah.
ever happens to us happens in the present moment.
Yeah.
There is only this moment right now that we're breathing. And that's where we need to put our focus. And if we can learn how to be happy and present in this moment, all of a sudden life changes. And it becomes a beautiful thing that we actually get to start taking control over.
I love that. So if you could give one little tooling kit for someone, what could they do to be happy, to start the process of being happy?
You know, I'll say this for the men out there who are struggling. When you're feeling those emotions rise, when you're feeling the anxiety, box breathe. It's one of the most powerful things that we do. And it literally will bring your attention into the present moment. And it'll tell your subconscious mind that you're in charge, you're safe, everything's okay. It calms the nervous system down, it lowers your heart rate, and it just makes you feel good. If you will box breathe for 2 minutes whenever your emotions are high or you're feeling bad, you're in a bad place, box breathing for 2 minutes will literally just calm your entire system and reset you and make you feel better. And it's one of the most simple things that anybody could do. You simply inhale for the count of 4 seconds. And then you hold your breath for 4 seconds. 2, 3, 4. Exhale for 4 seconds. 2, 3, 4. And then you hold. And you just keep doing that. And then you inhale. And you just...
It's instant. It's instant.
Yeah, one rotation and you will feel calmer. It's telling your system, I'm in charge. The subconscious mind that we live off of 95% of our days, we're taking control from the subconscious mind and saying, no, daddy's home.
Yep.
Right? We're not on autopilot. Because when we walked into this podcast room, we weren't thinking how to walk. When we drive home, we're not going to think about how to drive. We're doing all these things on autopilot. When we breathe on autopilot, we're not thinking about breathing. But when we take control of it, now all of a sudden it tells this supercomputer that is our subconscious mind that takes care of all of our operating procedures on a daily basis, says, you know what? You sit over here for a second. I'm going to take control of the wheel. And when you do that, everything calms down. That is the secret sauce in how we find peace. And when people start to turn from the outside world and turn their focus inward, that is where we start. You start with focusing on the breath, taking control of something you do subconsciously and making it conscious. And now all of a sudden you can take control of your life. So to answer your question, that would be my advice to anyone. When you're riding around in the car, practice it. When your emotions get high, practice it. If you're feeling pissed off, practice it. When somebody cuts you off in traffic, box breathe. And the more you do it, the better results you're going to feel. And you're going to literally feel like you're starting to take control of your life with that one simple tool. And it's extremely powerful.
Love that. Thank you for that advice.
Yeah.
If you're a real superstar, throw in that gratitude as well.
Oh, yeah. Gratitude journal.
Huge.
Another
game changer.
Yeah, that automatically, it shifts your brain out of cortisol and shifts you into oxytocin in 10 minutes if you just write what you're grateful for. If you'll sit down in the mornings and just write for as long as you can what you're grateful for. I like to play it with my son. He's 10 years old now, and we play the gratitude game. And I'll say what I'm grateful for, and then he'll say what he's grateful for, and we'll go back and forth for 10 minutes whenever he's not just feeling right. And all of a sudden, we're both just laughing and having a blast 10 minutes later. And what he was talking to me about no longer matter because he's happy in the present moment because we manually shifted him out of a chemically induced fear state into a chemically induced happy, compassionate, loving state just by shifting the contents of our thoughts, saying what we're grateful for. I call it, just a simple way of saying it is shifting your thoughts out of the fear bucket and into the love bucket. And it's just simply taking control of your thoughts. And then all of a sudden the chemicals in your body, in your brain start to change. What?
Crazy.
Why-
No one taught us this.
Yeah, why were we taught this in first grade, kindergarten?
Man,
we should have.
It should have
taught
been.
this.
It should have been.
Yeah.
It should have been.
Oh,
That's great advice. Great parenting advice. Great fatherly advice.
yeah, that's a fun one. The Grateful Game is. I got another one for you guys. If your kid ever comes upstairs or comes to your room in the middle of the night and they're terrified, if they're terrified of the boogeyman, the monster's going to give them. All of us have moments like this.
Oh, yeah.
Play the Grateful Game with them. For 10 minutes, they will go back to bed happy, smiling, and forget about the boogeyman.
Wow.
And go right to bed.
Wow.
The first time I did this with Tucker, I was absolutely amazed. He did it when he was 7. The first time he ever came upstairs, uncontrollably crying, like snot coming out of his nose. He was so uncontrollably crying. And I was like, Tucker, I know what's wrong with you. And he's like, what? I said, you're in the fear bucket and we need to get you into the love bucket. He's like, okay, but I don't know how to do that. And I was like, well, I can help you. All you got to do is just play a game with me. He said, okay, well, what's the game? I said, you just got to play the Grateful Game. And he said, okay, but I don't know how to do it. I says, real easy. All you got to do is say what you're grateful for. And then I say what I'm grateful for. And we just keep going back and forth. He said, okay, but I don't know how to do that. I said, it's easy. I'll go first. I said, I'm grateful for this house that we're living in.
I thought you were going to say, I'm grateful for sleep.
No, I wasn't as smart as that. But then he said, okay. And he was still really upset. And I was like, oh, what do you, I said, are you grateful for Leroy and Nala? He said, yeah. I'm grateful for Leroy and Nala. And then I said something, and then he went, and he was grateful for his toys or something silly. And then he was like, oh, I'm grateful for Mama. And we went back and forth. And after about 2 minutes, I was like, holy shit, he's feeling better. After about 5 minutes in, he's smiling. Like he's gone from no tears. It's almost like he's forgotten about it. He's not overly happy, but he's happy. 10 minutes in, we are laughing, cutting up, having fun. And we just kept going because I didn't want it to kind of stop. I was kind of in shock of what was going on. But about 15 minutes in, I just looked at him and said, all right, Tuck, got to get back in bed. He went back downstairs, got in bed. I never heard another peep from him.
Wow. That's huge.
Dude, that was such an amazing thing. I knew that gratitude worked with me doing my journal. It made me feel better in the mornings. But I just
Seeing that
watched
with your
it
kids.
flipped him upside down, like from being uncontrollably
Fearful.
Yeah, and
Man.
and then he's smiling, laughing, and going back downstairs happy. Like, what?
Wow.
You know, this is number 7. This is my 7th kid. I had 6 other kids come and do this, and I'm like, get back in bed. You know, you give them a little love, tell them it's going to be all right. Walk in there, check the closets, show them that they're safe. Daddy's here. If you need something, come back to my room, but nothing's going to get you. You're safe. I got to tell them they're safe. I didn't have to tell him he was safe.
He knew he was safe.
Yeah. We switched the chemicals in his brain and got him out of the fear bucket into the love bucket. I didn't have to explain to him he was safe. We just switched the chemicals in his brains and he went back to sleep because he now had different chemicals pumping in his brain. But that's what's happening to all of us as well.
Yeah.
You know, that's what's happening to humans, not just my 10-year-old.
Sure.
So, you know, if we could practice box breathing and we could do the gratitude journal, those 2 things right now, if you're suffering and you just do those 2 things, takes you 16 minutes a day. Like that's week 1 of my program, pretty much. 16 minutes a day will change your life, will alter your life and bring you out of a state of misery and start to give you some sense of hope and control and moments of peace and joy. But you'll have to be at practice. You'll have to use the discipline.
You got to have the discipline.
Because it'll all come back.
Mm-hmm. That's huge. That's great advice. That's great advice.
It's fun.
Well, to end it, I don't know who needs to hear this, but you got to be patient with yourself. When you are becoming someone you have never been before, growth does not happen overnight. It takes time. Don't rush the process because every small step forward is shaping you into the version of yourself you've been working for. Trust the journey, be present, give yourself grace, and remember, becoming greater takes all the patience in the world. We love you guys.
That was beautiful. We definitely love you guys.
Straight up.
Thanks for watching, listening. Appreciate you guys. Hope you're well.
Cheers.